Hello, good to see you. It is Petrie here with you until 4 o'clock. That's as far into the future as I can see. That's it. That's about it. I really can't. Or maybe to the first bottle that's opened this evening before my early night with my favourite little American Laurie Laird. So that's what I'm doing this evening. But let's have a look further into the future, and our futurist Andrew Eborn is here. You can see further than that, can you?
I can. It's a joy to join you in studio in real life, because normally you do this in the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night, working.
Working, absolutely.
You have to be very clear on
absolutely.
that.
Well, 2023 was the year that everybody became aware of artificial intelligence, AI, in the mainstream. In fact, it was so much so that Collins Dictionary chose it as the word, although there's a couple of them, of the year. And what's interesting, you probably remember, in 2017, the word of the year was fake news. So it's two words again. You combine the two of those and we have a delicious explosion.
Cocktail of
cacophony
lies.
of whatever. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they always say that a lie travels around the world before the truth has got its boots on. Yeah. And boy, has that happened this year. And a quick run through, if you've got time, I'll show you three areas.
Yeah.
We're going to cover images, we're going to talk about audio, and we're going to talk about video. And we're also going to talk about the massive impact it's going to have on the elections, which are going to happen next year, because that's where it's all going to go wrong. So it all started, you might take your mind back. I've got a few images for you as well. I know people are listening on the radio, but we can use our power of description all the way back to March. And you might remember that a certain pontiff, the devil may wear Prada, but the Pope prefers a puffer. And we've got a little picture of the Pope in his glorious puffer.
I did love this image, I have to say, because he looks blooming cool.
Doesn't he look cool? It's not brilliant.
He should definitely get one of those. Although in the second photograph, I'm so sorry for those of you on radio. This is the Pope wearing a white puffer jacket, a long white puffer jacket. He looks really hench.
He does.
In one of those pictures. He looks really buff.
Yes, he does.
Buff in a puffer.
Yes.
So I mean, clearly this was faked. But I mean, the manufacturer of that puffer jacket must have been absolutely thrilled.
And indeed that was the whole idea. You got the whole internet burst a blood vessel talking about the Pope and a puffer, and this is the early example of some of the AI.
Very cool.
It looks very good until you look at some of the details. So things like fingers, and you can talk about extremities and those sort of days. It was a bit easy to tell because the fingers are not quite right and his glasses are not quite perfect and things like that. But basically what then happened, it gave birth to a whole load of these things.
I mean, that's a fairly harmless.
It is harmless.
Unless you're the Pope and want paying for wearing a puffer jacket.
Well, but that's the thing. And brands have basically taken people and their images and so on and so forth. We come into examples of that as well.
But can you sue? I mean,
absolutely.
If they put Petrie in a puffer?
I think Petrie in a puffer, I would help you, Petrie.
Would you? If I could sue them, we could get a bit of money out of them.
I think it'd be rather good, Petrie. I think you'd look fantastic. I actually bought a really big puffer. I've got it outside. Off the back of it, just on principle.
If I wear a big puffer jacket, I look like a weeble.
Well, I probably don't. I will never fall down. But if I do fall down, I'll wobble back up again. So
exactly.
But it gave birth to all sorts of wonderful things, and I've got lots of them. Your powers of description will just be in overload at the moment. So this is a picture of Trump having been arrested, which is a glorious one here, which appeared as soon as I know the real fact. This is where you blur fact and fiction, and they all say that the camera never lies. Well, that's perhaps the biggest lie of all. I say that perception is deception, and what we have here.
I mean, this is an incredible image. This is a group of police. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 6 police officers surrounding Trump, who's being dragged by his collar, practically on his bottom on the pavement, isn't he? He's been dragged. That's an image that many people would want to see and want to believe, but it is entirely fictitious.
Oh, absolutely. Again, it's entirely fictitious. It is AI, and if it had been true, then Trump would have put out a bit more merchandise, wouldn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
And his popularity would have soared.
Padded bottom trousers.
I thank you. Yes, padded bottom trousers. They do very well. Interesting, to make it in the interest of balance, we also had a picture of Joe Biden. Are you prepared for this? Is Joe Biden in a rather fetching swimsuit? You can have a look at this. Did the rounds, and again,
we don't have this one. Is it?
We don't have that one. We have Boris Johnson. Do we have Boris Johnson?
Just describe to me the Biden image, because there are people
the last one, so basically Biden in a swimsuit, it was a wonderful floral number, which again people sent round the world because they believed it was true. And this was the time before, and I always say question everything, this was the time before people sort of turned around and say, well, look, maybe that's not quite right.
Yeah, I don't think people want to see Biden.
I think they probably do, but
it's not suitable. It's not suitable for the dogs and cats that might be watching.
Oh, I love dogs and cats who might be watching. They love it. We also have, basically what they're doing, they put these politicians, you can put anybody anywhere into any situation.
So like you said, Boris Johnson is a...
Boris Johnson is now as a
This was one of my favourites, the Harry and William's teary-eyed.
Oh, yes, that was rather good. Have we got that one?
Oh, we got Boris Johnson as a bin man.
There's Boris. Doesn't that look glorious?
It suits him.
It does suit him. But a wonderful caption...
They have made him rather fat there.
He does look a bit chubby. He's not nearly as chubby as that. I saw him yesterday. It basically says, given he can't clean up his own mess, it's doubtful he could clean up anybody else's. And it was produced by something called Midjourney, which is one of these AI programs. And there's a whole series of these, so you put them in a different thing. But you're right. What I love about this is because we're now dealing in the realms of fantasy, you can make glorious things happen. So the reunion we really want about the two brothers, we want Harry and William to get back together, don't we? The teary, that sort of stuff. And again, you can imagine why this image went viral. There we have that. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that a touching moment?
It's really nice, and William has got tears in his eyes. You can't see Harry's face; he's probably going, but he got William there. But again, entirely fictitious.
Yes,
never
totally
happened.
fictitious.
But it's look. The question I have, I think, is that the Boris Johnson as a bin man thing. That's just a bit of comedy.
Yes,
and I think that a lot of people would know that was fake, and we've been doing that for years, by the way, messing with photographs and things like that. So what is the difference between it being sort of fake news and just a bit of fun?
Well, the difference is this. We're now living in a very diseased information age where you're having all sorts of situations, and the first casualty in war, as you know, from Bosnia and various other things, is the truth. And so what's happening, you're getting these distorted images. While there are lots of horrible images coming out from Gaza and coming out from the Ukraine, there are also lots of fake ones, and they're doing the rounds. And that's why you can look at these sort of things. There's all sorts of children in rubble and various other things. Yeah. Don't trust those sort of things. I mean, that's the key to it. But always, a propaganda basically has been in war. Popism propaganda, I call it. You look at that sort of stuff right from the very, very early days. In fact, you can trace it all the way back to the Roman times, where people would put round all sorts of stories and those sort of things as well.
Yeah, and fake pictures from war is so commonplace.
It's absolutely
commonplace.
And I think you need to, that's why I would urge everybody, I do this series you probably know called Andrew Eborn's Fake or Fact, where we look at lots of these stories and give people the tools to check. And some of these tools, for example, you can do reverse image searches on Google. Now, not a lot of people know that at the moment. You can tap in text, they know, but you can take an image and you can basically drag that into your Google reverse image search, and it will tell you where it first appeared. So if you're not quite sure about a story, I urge people to have a look at that sort of side as well.
Yeah, always double check. I remember, I don't know if you remember this, the fabulous programme Drop the Dead Donkey.
Oh, I love Drop.
It was brilliant, and they should bring it back to modern times. But it was a comedy based on the news in a newsroom, and of course, all those of us that worked in newsrooms went, this ain't no comedy, this is the truth. And there was a reporter called Damien, who was a rogue. He was an absolute. He wanted the headline. He wanted the. In these days, it would be the clickbait, wouldn't he? So wherever he went, he took with him a child's teddy and I think a child's shoe. Yes. So if there was ever a pile of rubble, he would place the teddy bear in the shoe and go, oh, we think there might be a child under there. And it was funny in terms of the comedy, but actually that's the sort of thing that goes on in a war.
Comedy is so powerful for getting these sort of situations.
So it was brilliant. It was so well done.
And so true. And that's the whole thing about Dropping the Dead Donkey is you've got a bigger story, so you work on that sort of thing. It's like dead cats and so on and so forth. If you want to distract people. Yes,
Drop the Dead Donkey, by the way, was the final story. And you'd say, you'd have it there in case there was nothing else. Yes. Sort of skateboarding, darker, but do you remember those things? And the gallery would shout, "Drop the dead donkey," which is the last story. It wasn't about dead donkeys, in order to put in a story that had come through. Just to explain that to those who don't understand that. But it's interesting that these things have been going on for so long. But what wasn't going on there is the accompanying narrative
and
the endorsement of these images that you get on places like, you know, on TikTok or on Facebook or on X, Twitter. Nobody's going to call it X, are they?
And you know why it's called X? It's after Elon Musk's third son, who is called X.
Right.
It's the son he had with Grimes. Extraordinary.
What a stupid man. For somebody so brilliant and so rich, he doesn't half make some stupid decisions. But it's that, isn't it? That's what backs it up.
And what happens now, we're basically living in this diseased information age where you can find anything to confirm your own prejudices.
Yeah.
And that's the real problem. So these pictures, they might be a bit of fun and we have a joke about them, but some of this is incredibly serious. I mean, I don't know if you've got the picture. You can have a look at Harry and Meghan, big in America, if we've got this one here, which is again sort of, everybody likes to have a pop at Harry and Meghan. I'm probably one of the few people who can actually stand up. There they are, look at this. So this is basically a rather unrealistic picture on that sort of thing, where they look absolutely enormous on that sort of basis. And we've also got some sort of fun ones as well, where they've been put in certain movie situations. So we've got this Sleepless in Sandrigham, which is rather similar to the Sleepless in Seattle, if we've got that picture there as well.
Oh, but I love that Harry and Meghan one. That is genius. How they've made him look that fat is just... It doesn't look like her, though.
No, it doesn't really, does it? But it was working on that sort of predator. And we've also got things like Elon Musk as a toddler. We've got Beets by Dr Dre. And there's also some famous movies which have been misspelled as well, which I maybe can pull
there's Elon Musk as a toddler.
Isn't that good? Do you like Elon as a little toddler?
That isn't what he looked like as a toddler?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Because if you're not quite sure, and it has a little ounce of truth about it, and you're confirming your own...
But again, that's fairly harmless.
Oh, that's totally
just
harmless.
Manipulating an image, isn't it?
That's totally manipulating an image, and it depends in what sort of situation you might want to do. But no, this is what I quite like, is the pun on that. So this is Beets by Dr Dre. Now, there is Dr Dre standing in a field of beetroot, as opposed to these very expensive headphones that he has, but worth every penny, I'm sure. So that was quite fun. But we've also got these sort of famous movies, misspelled. So we've done the comedy thing, and it's the end of the year rather than the negative stuff. Can we pull out the comedy ones, because this is rather fun? So we've got things like Shaving Private Ryan. So you've got
nice.
I thank you.
No, we haven't got these.
We haven't got that one. You've got the Codfather. You've got Finding Emo, and you've got Pause, which shows a picture of a cat.
Very nice.
If we do have time, I want to just touch on the audio stuff as well, because the other thing that broke was not just the Pope and a Puffer, which gave rise to all these AI images, but also sound. And sound is perhaps the most easy to manipulate, because people don't play with other senses. You can spot the wrong fingers, you can spot the extremities not quite right. In sound, it's really, really difficult. And on April the 4th last year, there was a track, which I don't know. Do we have the track that I can just play a little bit of?
We've got a Johnny Cash track, I believe.
We've got I'll tell you about that one. So the first one was the Drake and the Weeknd, and it took the internet by storm, because people thought it was a collaboration between Drake and the Weeknd, and it was called basically Heart on My Sleeve. It got millions upon millions of things, but it was created by a fake account, and it wasn't them at all. They'd never collaborated, and it was sort of basically taken off air, but it showed what was possible, because people genuinely believed that was the case. Rather fun in playing with this sort of stuff as well. We've got Johnny Cash. If you've got it, this is lovely. You've got Johnny Cash singing Barbie.
I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. Life in plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair, undress me.
That is brilliant.
Isn't that fantastic? So you can basically take anybody's voice
and make them sing
whatever you want. So we can also do, I was talking to James Whale last night as we celebrated his gong, right too, and I said we can make you immortal, because we can take little snippets of your voice and we can do the James Whale show in perpetuity on that sort of basis. And you might remember the big Hollywood strike and the writers' strike. AI was front and centre of that, because they're very worried that what's going to happen is do themselves out of job. jobs. And again, I speak regularly on this sort of basis to basically say what we need to do is look at the commercial side of it. And I use Bruce Willis as my poster boy, if you like, because he very rightly he has aphasia and so on and so forth, so can no longer act in the brilliant way that he did. #1 movie always, Die Hard. But what's interesting, he licensed his name, image and movements to a Russian telecom company, so he can still earn money even though he's not.
Yeah, we just got to make sure that the artists or their estate earn that money.
Exactly,
and that you know, these film companies and music companies don't just cash it in themselves. Thank you, Andrew.
It's a real pleasure to see you.
Thank you very much indeed. Andrew Eborn there. Stay where you are.
This is Talk TV.